We made some upgrades to the Ozark Trail FS.2 Slalom, and now it's worth $5,000. Let's see how it stacks up to a modern mountain bike. Today we're here to test how the Ozark Trail stacks up as a serious mountain bike against one of my favorite bikes, the RSD Wildcat V3. This bike is $1,600 for the frame and shock. This bike is $470 for the entire bike, but then we did upgrades to both of them. A lot of people think this bike can't be taken seriously, or they think, sure, if you throw thousands of dollars at it, of course it's a great bike. But that's not always true with affordable bikes. Most affordable bikes won't accept great parts. And so the purpose of this experiment is to see if I can equal the playing field and see if I can make this bike as good as that bike on the trail. These bikes actually have quite a bit of similarity. They both have aluminum frames. This has 120 mil travel, that's 125. We've got a 120 up here, a 140 up there. Geo's very similar. They're both horse links. They're both about 33.5 pounds. I thought this would be a really exciting way to test a $400 frame against a $1,600 frame. So I made a lot of modifications to this bike. Basically, the only thing that's stock is the frame and the drivetrain. I wasn't focused on keeping this as a budget bike. I was focusing on keeping it equal to the other bike we're reviewing, and also seeing if this is worth putting great parts on, because I think that's the true test of a frame, is its upgradability. So we're running Paul Clamper cable brakes front and rear with Paul Canty levers. I'm running a RockShox Reverb 150 mil wireless dropper. I did that because I'm lazy and I didn't want to run any routing. As a bike reviewer, that saves me tons of time swapping this from bike to bike to bike. Wheels are Spinergy MXX 30. We kept the Shimano Qs. For the shock, I swapped it out for a RockShox Monarch RL that I found at my local charity that takes donor bikes and fixes them up and gives them to other kids. They had some random shocks and I happened to hold it up. The eye to eye happened to be right and the stroke is close enough. I don't even know what the stroke is supposed to be on this bike, so I took a good guess and it's actually working out pretty well. So we shaved 5 pounds. We could easily save a lot more weight if we swapped out the Qs. The Qs is quite heavy and you feel that cassette when you pick it up. But it works, and so I didn't see a reason to swap it out just to raise the price of this or to make it even lighter. I think 33.6 pounds is a respectable weight for an aluminum trail bike. Now there are some great channels doing some great things on a budget with the Ozark Trail. This is not one of those videos. Today is more about maximum performance available out of this thing. So this was my attempt to make an apples to apples comparison. We got the same wheels, same tires, same bar sweep, same stem length. We've got droppers on both of them. So let's take it to the trail and see how this stacks up as a serious mountain bike. All right, here we are on Thunderdome. Oh, this jumps so well. Oh, this is so fun. Man, they've done it. Woo! Still a little soft on that corner. Man, this manual's so well. All right, now we're aboard the Wildcat, another super fun bike on this stuff. Both are very poppy. Man, very similar. I definitely feel the longer chainstay on the Ozark Trail. Man, these both jump incredibly well. The air springs on these are so poppy and playful. Oh man. Little manuals are great. Cross rollers. So on my Wildcat, I've got my dropouts all the way back to make the chainstay as long as possible, but you still feel it's a little more compact. I love my Wildcat on that, but the Ozark Trail FS.2 Slalom, I would rather have on that trail. Maybe that's why they called it the Slalom. That was a slalom trail and it was so much fun there. A chainstay this long should not pop into and hold manuals as well as it does. I'm not the king of manuals. I have a hard time holding them on flat terrain. But between rollers, like at a pump track, where you float that front wheel through it, this thing is wonderful at that. It is so poppy, and it does not have a lot of small bump sensitivity. It's hard to know what kind of shock this was designed for. We don't know what the leverage curves are. It's pretty firm off the top, which I actually really love. So it kind of sprints like a full suspension DJ or slope style bike. It sprints like it has a ton of anti-squat. So I'm getting zero bob on the climbs. And when I'm sprinting into things and trying to sneak in a pedal or two before a little double, it doesn't bob at all, despite being a horse link. But then when you start hitting compressions and hitting bigger things, it's very cush feeling, but it pumps really well. So it feels like it's got a ton of anti-squat, where it's fighting the shock from moving in the first third of its travel. But then once it gets going, it moves pretty well. I did bottom out on that last jump, so I would probably add some volume inside of here, but man, this thing is so much fun. It should not be this fun. Now, the pivot hardware is better on the RSD, so you're probably gonna wear out bearings sooner on this. So what? So you replace the bearings twice as soon and save $1,200 for something that is just as fun on that type of trail. Now, I'm not affiliated with Ozark Trail or RSD, but I do have a discount code for RSD bikes down in the description below. Use coupon code PARTY. So this is neutral. No one's paying for this video. I'm just excited to see what I can learn about the two of these. This thing is really, really good. Also, at first, it looked like the bend in the seat tube was going to be a problem to run a dropper, but it's just a visual thing because the seat tube is so short, it looks like you can't insert very much, but it's actually wonderful. And so these reverbs actually have a lot of stack. I could run a 1-up dropper and fit a 180 in here. I'm 5'6", this is a size medium. That's saying a lot. So props to that team for keeping the seat tube short. Very few low-end bikes do that. Man, this Geo is so good. I know a lot of you are thinking, why didn't you put a 130 fork or a 140 fork? I actually think this bike is plenty slack. I don't want it any slacker. And when you start adding travel, you start changing the geometry of the bike, and I actually really like the geometry as it is. So I stuck with a 120 fork, which is plenty for how we're riding it today. All right, let's go take it to another type of trail. Now we're gonna go try an XC trail. It's so nice having a serious fork and serious brakes on here and having a dropper. Like I said, you could spend way, way less and get the same performance. I was just picking parts that were kind of apples to apples. I like this bike with an air shock. It's a little bit stiff on the climbs. Like the rear wheel doesn't track as well. It's got a lot of anti-squat, like I said. It feels like a soft hardtail on the climbs until the suspension gets moving. And then once it gets moving, it behaves more like a traditional full suspension bike. Now, being a hardtail lover, I actually secretly love the way this feels. It's not as stiff as a hardtail. It's smoother than the most supple hardtail. Man, this thing is light and it climbs well. Really great Geo. Really balanced bike. The steer tube's cut a little bit short on this fork I put on. I would love maybe another 15 mil of spacers underneath to raise the front up just a little. So if I were keeping this bike, that's what I'd do, is either get a taller rise bar or I'd leave the steer tube longer. It's kind of funny running a kind of an XC-ish fork on here. This is a good sign. A rock with tons and tons of pedal strikes on it. I live for technical climbs and I'm always looking for bikes that are great at them. Let's walk through this obstacle. This is limestone, it's slippery, little bit tacky, muddy dirt, so it's not gonna have the best grip. This is the hard part. You get up here and there's this hole and there's all these weird steps, and it's easy to get your front wheel up, but your back wheel's trying to climb at the same time. So you kind of hit both of these wheel chocks at the same time. So this might take a couple tries to get up it, but we'll try it back to back with the two bikes to see which one does better up this. Oh man, I can't believe we got that first try. Let's try it one gear harder. Still got it. Man, I'm able to place this bike where I want to. It's really, really nice. Oh, even with some wheel spin, I'm still able to control balance. Instantly on the Wildcat, I can feel the taller stack. Interesting. Oh, I struggled. That was better with some speed, but the front was lifting a little more. I had to fight to keep it down. I love this little bike. I don't want to make it look bad. It's one of my favorite full suspensions. It's great for everything, but I'm going to give it to the Ozark Trail on that. It was just a little bit easier to keep my balance. It just felt a little bit more planted. Maybe it could be crank length. I'm running 160s on this, 170s on the Ozark Trail. I might be getting a little bit more leverage to just eke out of it on really tough climbs. I'd give it a 10% advantage to the modified Ozark Trail. All right, now we're at Fireline, a flow trail with a couple mellow jumps. We're on the Wildcat V3. Both of these bikes are really playful and poppy. They pump really well. And they jump really well. So fun. Yeah, so good. All right, here we go. Fireline on the Ozark Trail. That was really fun on the Wildcat. Oh man, that jumps so well. With this air shock, even with the coil shock, it was pretty good. This thing is so fun. Just boosts. So good. There's some about the suspension design and running this shock. It just has so much pop off of every little thing. I'm not a huge jumper. I'm not hitting the big stuff here. But even the medium 6 to 10 foot wide tabletops, you're just coming off the lift. It's so controlled, it feels like you're on a trampoline. And when you release, it just lifts you up at the perfect angle. It's really easy to jump and it corners extremely well. It's just got a little bit extra zip through there. And I think calling it a slalom was the right word because this feels like a slalom bike. Where this started to fall apart was on the chatter and on the faster, rougher berms with rocks in it. I felt like it wasn't tracking quite as well. It doesn't have the small bump compliance of the RSD or most other full suspension bikes. It rides almost like a soft hardtail that has a lot of give when you land places. So it's really sprinty, really poppy. It still takes a lot of the sting out, but it doesn't quite track the ground like most modern trail bikes. Now we're gonna head to one final trail to see how this does in modified form down dragon scales, which was really rattly and really out of control stock in that last video. It'll be really interesting to see how it keeps up compared to the Wildcat today. All right, we're at the top of dragon scales. I don't normally time my runs because I ride for party and for fun, but I am curious if there's a speed difference between the two of these. So I'm gonna go party pace, not race pace, just a chill pace, and compare the times between the two. We're gonna start on the Wildcat to set a baseline. We'll start the timer as soon as we hit dirt. Kind of reminiscent of an enduro track. I still don't know it very well. Need to slow my fork rebound a little. This bike is so much more capable than a 125 mil bike should be. Such a hard charger. Such a quiet bike. Super composed, diving down these little holes. Really comfortable and quiet. Still playful. Need to pick a better line through there. Man, I think the Ozark Trail is gonna struggle. And time. Whew. Felt great on this little bike. Just a real quiet, sorted bike. It wasn't a magic carpet, it's only 125 mil travel, but it can be pushed hard down there. All right, back to the Ozark Trail. Here we go, aboard the Ozark Trail. should be faster because technically I should know the trail better now. This poor little step cast 34. Oh, blew that corner. Surprisingly quiet compared to the first time down here. Oh, I'm sorry, little fork. Man, it's taking a beating. A little bit noisier. Not a ton though. I'm feeling a little bit of shorter travel on the front. Wow, I don't think that time's gonna be tons different. Wow, what a difference from the first time I rode this down. Wow. What a difference that was, taking this down modified versus stock. It was so much quieter. It still felt like a short travel bike. If you look at the times, the RSD1, and if you look at the control and just how planted it felt, the RSD was more planted in that. So at the end of the day, can this be a serious mountain bike? Absolutely. Yes, the hardware on the pivots is smaller. Big deal. Here's my philosophy. Here's the psychology behind this for me. We have to remember who this bike is for. Someone that wants to start mountain biking, to tell them you have to spend $1,500 to get started, that's a really hard pill for them to swallow. And a lot of people think, man, I don't even know if I like the sport yet. I don't know if I want to pony up $1,500 for an entry/mid-tier bike that I may not even like, but I could pony up $500, and that's where this comes in. And then guess what? They put 300 miles on this and they're hooked on the sport. And then it's not a big leap for them to save up a little extra on their next paycheck and buy a dropper or buy a new brake set or whatever. And that's what's so important about this bike. It's easy for those of us that have been riding for years and years to be like, oh, why don't you just buy Bike X that's already the price of all your upgrades? Yes, that does make sense for those of us that know and we're already hooked on the sport. But to ease people into the sport, I think this is doing fantastic things. I absolutely love that I could put my highest of highest end parts on this bike and they bolted right on. I had to build some interesting spacers with my 3D printer to make the shock fit, and I had to swap the lower headset cups and the crown race, but everything else just bolted right on. That is a huge win for people getting started. I would happily ride this as my only bike. It's a fantastic bike, especially for flow, for punchy stuff. The Shimano Q's is still working well. I lost the little plastic cover on the bottom of the shifter on ride 2. That's just disappeared. I don't know where that went. But man, overall, I really like this thing. If I could have some wishes, I wish I had a 73 mil BB shell. I wish they had more specs on the website about the shocks. And then I wish I knew the leverage curve so we could kind of play with that to see what type of shock would work best with this. I actually think this bike is really well suited for an air shock because of the way it ramps up and pumps off of things. This bike is an absolute blast to ride. Now, this is a little bit silly to make it $5,000, but the point was remove any barriers from components to see how the frame rides. And this frame absolutely stacks up to a modern frame. And I know that hurts a lot of people's feelings. They don't want to hear that. They want to hear that every other frame is so much better. But bravo to the team at Ozark Trail for building such a cool bike that was so much fun to ride. Now, if you want help swapping out parts on this and you want my advice as to which fork I would get or which dropper or whatever, I do that over on Patreon. If you want help knowing what the perfect bike is for you and your budget, I do that over on Patreon. Now, we got a goal to hit 100,000 subscribers this year. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed yet already. 70% of the people watching this video still aren't subscribed. So please subscribe, help me out. And I've got some links down below where you can throw a tip my way if you enjoyed and learned something and this video was valuable to you. Thanks for watching, everybody. There's a party in the mountains and you're invited.